Perfectly Seasoned Cooking Bootcamp. I'm your personal chef, Greg Strahm. Today, I'll be showing you how to prepare a chicken breast stuffed with figs, goat cheese, and collard greens. I have all of my ingredients here in front of me, which, as you remember, is called mise en place. The recipe can also be found on my website, thesilverchef.net, along with other videos and podcasts. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put some wine, half a cup of white wine, or 1 cup, excuse me, of white wine in a pan, and we're going to soften the figs. And I'm going to just go ahead and put these in here. I've already pre-cut some of them, but I do want to show you when you're cutting a fig, dried fig, just make sure you take this little stem off because it's very tough and it will not dissolve. So what you want to do is you want to quarter the fig, make a nice small quarter, and then just cut it into thirds. You want to get a nice little, you just want little pieces in the stuffing. And as soon as this boils, we're going to remove it and keep the cover on, and we're going to let that soften. So this is going. I'm just going to go ahead and remove this from the burner and set that aside to soften, and I'm going to get started on the stuffing for the chicken. You want to make sure that it's a stainless steel or a pan that you can put in the oven. So I'm going to get started here with 2 to 3 tablespoons of olive oil. I have 1 medium diced shallot, and I'm going to get that started in here and start to move that around. You want to make sure you do this on a medium high heat because you don't want it to burn. So now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add, there's 1 of the cloves of garlic, and turn that down just a little. And I'm going to show you very quickly here, easy way to get the garlic out. There you go, out of the peel with a knife. Now, very easy to do this. Palm of your hand, press and push. Press and push. And now you can just very easily mince. And just go ahead and add this. Stir that. Now I'm going to add the pine nuts. Stir those a little. And at the same time, I'm going to add my thyme. Okay? And while that is toasting, I'm going to drain my figs, and I'm going to set the liquid aside because I'm going to use that in the making of the stuffing. There we go. You can see there's nice and starting to toast. Toasting brings out a really nice flavor in the nuts. So now I'm going to add collards. Stir that. When you add the collards, it lowers the temperature of the pan just enough to keep the pine nuts from over toasting. Now I'm going to add the figs. And that's really pretty much it for the stuffing. I'm just going to transfer this now into another bowl. And I want this to come down to just a little above room temperature because I want to be able to put the goat cheese in there. And I don't want that so hot that it melts the goat cheese. I do want it to soften. I'll set this aside until we get ready to do the stuffing of the chicken. Clean up my station here just a little bit. Now, I'm going to take my sharp paring knife and we're going to make a pocket in these 8-ounce chicken breasts. There are 2 sides to the chicken breast. There's this very long, clean, what I call the beauty shot line, and then there's the side where the the two breasts are connected, and I'm going to make a slit right, press down right in the middle, and I'm going to go almost to the other side. Now I'm going to take the knife and I'm going to kind of saw back and forth. Now I'm going to flip the knife and I'm going to go up to the other side, and the slit should be just about large enough so you can get in a tablespoon, because we're going to use a tablespoon. So it's probably about 3 inches. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my finger, I'm going to go in there, and I'm going to make sure that the pocket is clean all the way down. So I want to make sure I get stuffing in the entire breast. So I'm just going to go ahead and add an 8-ounce log of any goat cheese, your favorite goat cheese. Doesn't matter what the brand is, as long as it's a good goat cheese. And before I adjust the seasoning, salt and pepper, I'm going to mix it because the goat cheese has a saltiness to it already. This is a great temperature because it's allowing me to incorporate the goat cheese without melting it. I just want to check the seasoning. No salt, but it could use a little pepper. If I'm not going to use all of the stuffing, I want to transfer some of it to another bowl because I don't want to cross-contaminate this when I'm scooping in with the spoon to the stuffing. So I'm going to transfer some of this into another bowl. For the sake of time, I've stuffed 3 of the 4 while I was waiting for this to cool so that we can get on to the sauteing and the baking. Now notice I'm still on my plastic cutting board, and I've got my chicken breast with the slit here. So I'm going to just start, and you can just use your fingers and start. Once you get it in, press it down towards the thick end of the breast. And you're going to get in there down and dirty with this chicken breast in a second because you want to make sure that the stuffing goes from one end to the other, because when you cut into it, you want a nice slice that shows the stuffing as well. Now you can see how nice and plump that is. That whole area there is all stuffing. Wipe my hands off here. There again, I've been touching chicken. I'm not going to put this on my counter. I'm going to keep it on my plastic board. This is the surface for raw meat. Now I'm going to take a toothpick, or you can use a wooden skewer, a cocktail skewer, and you're going to go from the top down through, and you're going to, almost like sewing, knit 1, purl 2. So we're going to come back up through, and there, we've sealed that. So now that won't leak through. Very important for this, you want to start browning what I call the beauty shot side, the top side of the breast, because you're going to flip it and brown the second side and put the entire skillet into the oven. And I try to keep one hand chicken free in case I need to use it for something, like salt and pepper, which I'm going to do right now. Let me move that over a little. There we go. Now I'm going to generously season. It's very important when you're browning to make sure that you don't mess with it. You want it to get a nice brown crust on the outside, and you only want to turn it once. Now I'm going to turn these, and oh wow, that's a nice brown. And I didn't touch them once. You want to make sure that you get a good crust on it. Now you see I've removed my chicken cutting board and I have a nice clean wooden board. I'm preheating my oven at 375 degrees, and this pan with the chicken will go in the oven for about 25 to 30 minutes, or until the internal temperature reaches 165. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and pop this into the oven. I've checked the internal temperature and it was exactly 165. So I'm going to pull them out of the oven. Now remember, the handle is hot, so use a towel or a hot pad. I'm speaking from experience. Just a little hint, leave the hot pad or the towel on the handle, otherwise you'll forget that the handle's hot. Now before I transfer these, we're working with cooked food now. I always use gloves. I think it's a good habit to get into. I'm going to transfer these now to my platter. Look at that beautiful sauce in the bottom of the pan. I'm going to cover these with foil. Now the internal temperature, even though I pulled it out at 165, it will continue to go up about 5 to 7 degrees while they're sitting here covered. Now I'm going to start with, if you remember, I reserved the white wine from the figs. So I'm going to bring this to a boil very quickly, and I'm going to deglaze with the wine that I soaked the figs in. Now that'll start to get a lot of the brown or the fond off of the bottom of the pan. I'm also going to add a cup of chicken stock, my secret weapon ingredient for this, and it's white balsamic vinegar. The vinegar will give it a brightness to the taste, and you will not taste vinegar at all. It'll just bump the flavor up a little. So you're just going to put a splash in there, and that's really all you need. For this pan sauce, as this reduces and I thicken it, I'm going to make, the thickening is only just going to be with butter. I'm going to strain the sauce so that it's a nice, there aren't any lumps or any pieces of meat or seasoning or anything in the sauce itself. I'm going to take, it's kind of hard to measure here, but this is like a very healthy tablespoon of butter. In England, they call it a knob of butter. I'm going to put 2 of these into the sauce. And I'm going to continually whisk that until it is completely dissolved and there are no remains of the butter. That will thicken it somewhat, and I'll be able to let that reduce a little bit longer. Now you can see how that's thickening up slightly. This is just a very simple, classic pan sauce. Now you could use a thickening on this. You could use what's called a beurre manière, which is equal parts of soft butter and flour, and put a couple of knobs of that, dissolve that in the pan juices, and that will thicken up. And that's just it right there. Just going to let that go just a little longer. And this right here is for Julia. I know how she loved butter. Okay, I'm going to remove this from the heat now. And I'm going to strain it into a bowl. You want to make sure that you cut on a deep diagonal because you want a very attractive slice. This is very rich, as you saw how much butter that I used in here. Nice garnish of fresh thyme. I'm your personal chef, Greg Strahm, hoping all your days will be perfectly seasoned.